Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town Board meeting, April 3rd, 2023. Tonight, we do have a public hearing. As most of you folks probably in this room are aware, we have been undergoing or undertaking a comprehensive master plan reviews for the last several years, actually for about 3 years now. And it's nearing the completion, and as of late, there's been some particular attention brought to a specific area that's brought a lot of you folks to tonight's meeting. I'm somewhat troubled by the timing of this, to be honest with you. I won't get into that, but I have some questions in my mind as to why this came out in the fashion that it did, in the manner that it did. These meetings with our comp review have been going on for the last several years, all of which that have been open to the public, always been announced. Nothing's been a secret. Minutes have been posted. They're on our website. There's no covert action that's been going on here. But with all of that being said, we do have a public hearing tonight, which at this time I will open at 6, whatever it is right now, 6:04, for folks that would like to comment about our comp plan at this point. I did ask the clerk to post a sign-in sheet at the door for you folks. I'm assuming everyone is aware that if you've signed up on here, you wish to speak and address the board. I ask that for the sake of time, and this is by no means an attempt to shut anybody down, but if we have 30 people, for an example, on here that want to speak tonight, and everyone says the same thing, we're pretty much going to chew up a lot of time saying the same thing. We want to hear you. That's why we're here tonight. That's why this is a public hearing. And so with that said, I ask that you please be cognizant of what the rules and regulations are of our meetings, not just this meeting, but all of them. Every town board meeting, please act rather professionally and conduct yourself in a civil manner. So with that being said, I would ask that Christina Hardy Allen, who is registered on here, signed up. Christina, if you would like to speak at this time, I'd ask that you please address the audience from the podium. State your name and just your address, please.
My name is Christina Hardy Allen. I live on Long Meadow Drive in Malta Gardens. I have lived in Malta Gardens Mobile Home Park since 2006, 17 years. I run a Facebook page which was started in 2018 after we ran out of water on New Year's Day in order to make sure that the communication was all disseminated amongst the residents, as many as we could reach. I even stood in this room and I talked to some of you guys up there. And during this crisis, it was one of those things. Now I stand here again. It has been suggested on social media sites, for town business posts and other community pages, that Malta Gardens residents live on government subsidies or have government pay our homes. It has also been suggested that we don't pay taxes. This is not the case. Let me break this down for you. We sign a lease for a year, which includes property tax. This is then broken down into 12 monthly installments, which is generally referred to as lot rent. This enables us to participate in the STAR program like any other resident in this town. Furthermore, even if people did get government assistance, they are still paying taxes through their lot rent. Every community has residents who possibly receive government assistance to help them, but that shouldn't suggest those people get any less say in their community. Let me just educate people on the manufactured homes, or mobile homes as they've been formally called. Our homes are not mobile, and the state law, RPL 233, which governs our homes, because as our homes age, they require the same upkeep as any other home in this town, and they are not as mobile as one is led to believe. As with any other home in this community, We pay mortgages until we either sell or own our own homes outright, and we lease the land it sits on. As an example, after 15 years, I own my home outright and just lease the land that it sits on. The reason I state all of this is it has come to my attention, the Town of Malta Comprehensive Plan 2023, excuse me, included a passage on page 37 and 38 that reads, encourage the redevelopment of existing residential developments such as Malta Gardens with single-family homes. Existing affordable multifamily housing developments like Malta Gardens are reaching the end of their useful life. Eventually, these older housing developments will need to be rehabbed or demolished or rebuilt to modern standards. I was shocked, then horrified, as this passage suggests over 200 families could be forced to relocate because someone has deemed our homes as reaching the end of their useful life. Whereas no other communities like ours have been mentioned, we have been singled out. I need to ask the town board why we were singled out when there are other privately owned parks such as Northway Estates or Malta Mobile Acres, to name two, who bear the same status as privately owned communities. The answer to that question was alluded to the fact that we are typically more of a problem because of our lack of upkeep on infrastructure and homes within the community that have been abandoned and fallen into disrepair. I can totally understand that answer. However, this is not within the residents' control, and the residents shouldn't have to be subjected to this kind of fear-based inaction of the owners of said properties to remove the abandoned homes and their failure to keep up the infrastructure. I will note, as we have brought these problems to the town has been very willing to help us, and they have fixed issues, and I thank them all for everything that they've done. I really do, and it has not gone unnoticed. We appreciate it. But one of the reasons why this passage upsets me is because people assume that we can easily move our homes to another park or private land. This is just not the case. Age restrictions, zoning laws, which prevent us from doing this, as well as tremendous cost incurred if we did. On average, it costs between $5,000 and $10,000 plus, with varying factors such as distance, type of home, not to mention any costs such as repairs from the move, fees to set up, hookups, etc. We cannot move our homes to a new location. Our homes are not within those restrictions. For an example, my home, which is structurally sound, but because of the age, 1991, it is unable to be moved, and the local parks wouldn't allow it on their property, and local towns have prohibited homes like mine from being placed on private lands. Our choices are very limited. And once we've put all of our years of blood, sweat, tears, and above all money into these homes, another reason I'm upset was with the singling out of Malta Gardens in this passage is the town inadvertently is talking about the typically lower income people who possess the only housing that they can afford in this town. What is not in this passage is the struggle some of us have had to remain in our homes when we could barely have enough money to feed our families, how some of us have chose to live in this community because we needed to stay within a school district, and this was the only way we could afford to do so, and still have a yard for our children, how some of us have retired and decided to buy a home with our retirement funds to ensure that we won't have the high rents to deal with. Excuse me, how we have welcomed in the United States veterans to start anew with a home that they can raise their children in, how we have disabled people and people with cancer or other illnesses who cannot afford to start over anywhere. How would you feel if you read this passage in your neighborhood or your development was singled out? How would you feel about putting more time and money into your home? How would you feel about the devaluation of your property in a single paragraph set forth as part of a comprehensive town plan? I bet you would be pretty upset. How would you feel if it was because you had a few neighbors move out and people who managed your area let it go, and none of this was in your control? I bet you'd all be pretty upset. Put yourself in our shoes for a moment and think about the ramifications of this action and how this would affect you. Would you go ahead and put the new roof on? Would you reside your home? Would you do anything where you could stand to financially lose your investment if somebody else, through no fault of your own, deems your neighborhood is no longer worth saving? This passage, however you meant it, while drafting it up, takes the wind out of the sails of all who live here. It is one more worry in a town whose residents look down upon us and see it as one more way to get us Malta residents out. But to remove our homes and build new homes removes your service workers, your cashiers, your wait staff, your small business owners, your caretakers of your parents or your children. We are vital to this community in more ways than you know. And these people struggle and worry enough without adding to our fears. Lastly, what I know you didn't think about was in this passage was the way it can be our demise. I know you probably didn't really think about it, but our home values could plummet and our park could become even more vacant and abandoned. If this happens, our management company could be more readily convinced to sell to a developer. We have the right of first refusal, and there is grant money available to secure and help us facilitate the residents buying the park. This would ensure us security and staying where we live. If we couldn't buy it and our park is sold, we are afforded through the RPL 233 a small stipend between $1,000 and $15,000 to help us relocate. But that means little when you lose $40,000 plus in equity, when you still have a mortgage on a home you no longer can live in, and how that can financially ruin a person. We would also be granted a period of time in which to vacate, which could potentially stall any developer and create adversarial environment during which our rights would still need to be ensured and protected. This is what isn't addressed in this passage. Those are some of the legal ramifications of ousting families from their homes because you deem them as reaching the end of their useful life. This also begs the question, where would you put 200 plus families in this town? This is like the town of Malta is writing a self-fulfilling prophecy of sorts. This would put all of us in a terrible predicament. This board may not be around forever, and the discussion that was had regarding this paragraph is not guaranteed. No matter how innocent it was, this paragraph needs to be revised. I suggest an edit in this passage to read as such. Encourage the redevelopment of existing residential developments, including any private communities with single-family homes, existing and affordable multifamily housing developments. Some of these, as well as private communities, are aging. Encourage updating and rehabilitation of older or condemned homes, as well as infrastructure within private communities. Eventually, these older housing developments will need to be rehabbed as last resort, demolished to be rebuilt to modern standards. Please reconsider this passage and to remove Malta Gardens from the passage as it is currently written. I do have 2 letters written from people. I am going to allow other people to speak. So I'll send those to you.
I was going to say, yes,
will.
and thank you, Christina. We do try to limit folks with the time. That's to let others speak. I know in speaking with you on the phone that you had quite a bit that you wanted to say, and you were representative of what a lot of the folks are thinking and feeling in your community, in your neighborhood. So I wanted to let you go. Go ahead, Tim.
Christina, can you email the suggested language to? Thank you. Appreciate it.
And again, I ask if what Christina has covered is pretty much what you're going to say as well. I ask that you please maybe give your time to someone else so that we can get through everyone on this list. I think that your neighbors would probably appreciate it as well. Barbara begins with a C. Is there a Barbara begins with a C?
There is. I see her.
Does she want to speak? I don't think it's Barbara Connor. Is that Barbara Connor? Did you want to talk tonight? No, Barbara didn't want to talk. Bill Shaw? And again, just a reminder, folks, try to keep it within as close to 3 minutes as possible, please. Just to let other folks also have the opportunity to speak.
Will do. I'm Bill Shaw, Riley Cove Road, and I'm here because of a point that was made in the comprehensive plan about a need to better control runoff from small 1 acre and less lots. Last year, almost exactly to this date, my neighborhood of about 10 homes was completely flooded with surface runoff. It was sheet wash that came right down off the hill on the south side of Silver Beach Road. And come to find out the other day that not only was our area flooded, but the area over at Lakeside Acres was also flooded. And almost all of this runoff is coming from the large number of small buildings that have been put in this area. Now, Malta has a shale bedrock, and it got on top of it a lot of clay soil, which is very poorly drained. And typically in most soils, when it rains, about 65% of the rain is caught in the root zone, about 10% goes down to the water table, and the remaining 25% becomes runoff. And if we don't find something to do with that runoff, either by preventing it in the first place or putting in a system to handle it, the lake is going to become very full of sediment. Even today, we saw a large stream of brown water coming from somewhere. I assume it was from the rain yesterday. But when you finish up the plan, I hope you'll put in some strict controls. For example, putting in a requirement of not having buildings cover more than 20% of the available lot, or things like that, that will really have some meaningful control here. Two people in our area put up very large barns in the last 6 months. I asked them both if the building department said anything to them at all about runoff control, and they said, no, it never came up. So if this is what's going on in the town, and you guys continue not to do anything other than make suggestions, we need to really find a better way to do things. So that's pretty much it. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Bill. Tina?
Good evening, guys. My name's Tina Pafundi. I live at Malta Garden. The only man I know here is Tim. I bought my home 6 years ago. It's not even 10 years old. In that notification that I received off of Facebook about this meeting tonight, it stated that our homes were not updated, not maintained, not taken care of. I invite each and every one of you to my house. It's 3 Long Meadow Drive. You're more than welcome. I do not have wheels on my home. I will be upside down if you take our land. And that was my life savings. And the person she's talking about that has the health issues is me. All right? I have lymphoma. I'm not getting better. This is where I'm going to die. But now I'm not sure of that. And not all of us want to live in beehives. You build those beautiful homes over here. They're nice to look at. I don't want to live there. I want the outdoors. I've got curb appeal. I like my flowers. I like my garden. I don't want to be upside down, but I have a suggestion too to help fix this problem and get newer homes in our park. One of them being is you have a business down here. It's manufactured home business. Wouldn't it be good if you could get that business involved with Solomon Solomon and get a home in there, a showcase home, and get younger people who can't afford $2,500 a month and 3 kids for a mortgage, there's taxes and everything? Get them in those homes, revise us, relive them. We've also taken the time to rebuild homes within our park for the vets. There are 5 vets living in our park that by taking them, you're making them homeless again. They're families, just like me. We don't need this. And when I bought my house, I didn't know this was on your board. And it should have been listed when I purchased the home from the realtor that does the realty in that place, which I think should go too. I think Mark Knowles should be your realtor. Thank you. I want to give up my time to anybody else that wants to talk, but you are all welcome at any time.
Thank you, Tina.
I haven't seen this Facebook listing or posting where it says the town board is looking to confiscate your land.
It says that you're looking to redevelop it because we're modern, up to date. My home is handicapped.
If I could just interrupt public comment for a minute, I'd like to read something here and wonder if this suits you folks. Malta Gardens, or anyone for that matter, a little bit better. Residential lands between Route 9 and 67 and I-87 that are not part of the LC, which is the Land Conservation Zone, are envisioned as open space or mixed residential density development, which focuses on the open space associated with the Land Conservation District. Redevelopment of existing residential units, such as Malta Gardens for single-family homes, is encouraged, with consideration for diversification or of affordability. And redevelopment of existing apartments is desirable, with affordable units or a variety therein. Recreational uses that support the use of the abandoned railroad bed as part of the Saratoga County Heritage Trail System provide access to the Ballston Creek and Land Conservation Zone and supply a parallel pedestrian route for Malta and Round Lake Village residents will be encouraged. I'm curious, does that sound any better? Okay. Before everyone answers, I'd just like to say this. That was from our 2005 comprehensive plan. This language has been in our comp plan for over 20 years. And now, please let me finish. Nobody up at this dais has any intention whatsoever of driving Malta Gardens residents out of their homes, redeveloping with new construction, bulldozing homes. That is outright ridiculous. There's been a seed of fear planted, and it's shameful that it happened. This is a comp plan that's been used and has been used and will be continue to be used as a guide. Towns use them. You have to have a guide moving forward. That's exactly what this has been and will continue to be. It by no means is saying, developers, please come in and drive everyone out of Malta Gardens. And the folks behind planting the seed of doubt and fear should be ashamed of themselves.
But at the same time, I understand that we do need help in our development.
Yes, you do.
I love living there.
That's exactly what this board is trying to do, is help Malta Gardens.
When we had that blowdown, you know who helped us? Us. We cleared the lumber out of the streets. We helped people take the trees off their roofs. We did that as a community.
Because you're a good neighborhood
That's
and
right.
you're good neighbors. I encourage anyone to go online. Every one of our minutes from every meeting and every workshop that we've had on this comp plan is available online and has been such. Every meeting has been posted. Please, let me talk, please, ma'am. Everyone in this room needs to know all of these minutes are available. They've been available. I encourage every single person that's upset with this town board to read them. You might be a little bit enlightened. You might find out the true feelings of all of us sitting up here at this board right now. You might actually say, you know something? Maybe they were actually trying to help, not hurt the residents of Malta Gardens. But instead, when people allow fear to creep in, and selectively it's done, this is the result. And it is, I'll say it again, it's shameful. And I feel sorry for all you folks because you shouldn't have to be subjected to fear of losing your homes for someone else's gain.
But I also would like to work with you to make the improvements. Like I said, get a nice home from that place up here on Route 9 that's in Malta. Do it as a showcase there, clean the place up, help our new manager who is really trying. She's taking the homes to court. She's trying to get them out of there. She's really trying to clean this up. I've seen a difference since Lori to Sarah.
And I understand that it's a lot of work.
It is.
Everybody and anybody, supervisors that have sat in the seat before myself, know that this is a lot of work.
It is. But
It's not going to be done overnight, but it needs to start somewhere. And I understand everyone is upset. They think that they're going to have their homes taken away. You're thinking, and I'm saying this because I've had conversation with Christina at length, people are thinking that this board thinks of Malta Gardens as second-class citizens. That's bunk. Okay?
Can I,
That is bunk. Hold on, please, Craig. All right, people, when they have questions, I have always implored folks, you contact the folks in this building. Myself, building and planning, do not rely on a Facebook post. Do not rely on what you heard from your neighbor. Ask the people that are making these decisions and trying to help you right in this town hall building. That's what I've asked everyone to do. And above all, we have town board meetings. They're always put online. The agenda is online. There are no secrets. Pay attention to the agenda. We all have a responsibility to do that as adults. If you don't do that, you have no one to blame. Pay attention. When things are being discussed that affect you, show up at the meeting. The doors are never locked during a meeting, I can assure you of that. Could you please address it from the podium, sir? I'm going to.
Yes, I apologize. I just want a clarification of what you were talking about, Mr. Hammond. My name is Scott Beauregard, and I live at 18 Arbor Avenue on Malta Gardens. I'm a veteran. Also have helped to rehab some of these 5 to 7 homes that we've been working on.
As have I.
I know pretty much everybody here on the board, as I've seen at the dedications. I've seen you there as well. I just want clarification, because what I'm reading is from the 2023 comprehensive plan is, this is written by planning board members. Now, I don't know who the planning board members. I don't
That's
know the
not
town
accurate.
members. That's just what I,
No.
what I was surmised when I looked online to get this. Or is this, these folks that,
So,
before
so,
me.
and I'll, if it's okay, Mark?
No, go right ahead.
So what we have here, the draft comp plan that you've seen and caused this initial concern is a document that gets developed by our planning staff following a thorough discussion with the town board. It's the town board that writes this. We had a comprehensive plan committee that met and gave us a series of recommendations over several years. Then the town board has worked with planning staff to develop that document. But those professional planners and the planning staff are the ones that write it up. We were just discussing prior this. I see the language here that's so offensive, that reaching their end of their useful life, and we've definitely heard from folks here tonight that that's just not an accurate statement.
it's not. And
it's hurtful.
It's essentially offensive to me, but I mean, some of these properties are, and we are in need for help for support because Solomon does not take care of the infrastructure.
You have suggestions for us how to deal with those, sir?
I don't. I've asked,
Because we've been at our
personally,
wits' end.
is there anything, I've messaged Mr. Hammond, is there a possibility that the town could take over eminent domain if they're not taking care of this property? I have runoff that I've been
We
going
can
to
only
the
take
boards,
property
and
for a
they've
public
asking
purpose,
To
sir.
help with the drainage. They did some work on the back on Sunset. Now, everything comes across my yard. It's eroding, it's exposing electrical feeds, it's destroying my property. I've got mold probably growing. I'm sure it's inundated underneath the trailer. It's washing away my driveway in the yard. And
No
the
one
DEC
should
has
have to
been on
live
the
that way,
property
sir.
because there's kerosene spills, and now we think have gone down to, I don't know this for certain, but are into Round Lake. Now, if my tank was leaking, it would certainly just wash right out into the creek bed and would be in Round Lake right now.
Hey, sir,
That's all I have.
I gotta say one thing. This town board, including our supervisor, has probably done more to solve the issues between Solomon and the residents there. It includes grants, which is happening now. The vets, which are over there all the time. I've been over on several of those roofs, repairing them in the pouring rain, and I know what that's like.
Yes.
I've walked through that area numerous times. We feel for you, but I'm telling you, Mark and this town board has done more
I'm not
This-
arguing that.
administration than the last 15 years down
I
there.
will acknowledge that as well,
Believe
Mr.
me,
Warner.
We are making progress at our request.
I am not making allegations, and I will acknowledge that. And I know that Mr. Warner, yourself, Mr. Hammond, and Mr. Dunn, we've had open communications through social media, and I'm fully aware of that. I just want some clarifications and, express that I brought 2 of my 4 children here today. I can't afford to move in. I'm a disabled veteran now on disability, and I can't afford to live really anywhere else other than Malta Gardens. Maybe I'd find an apartment, but with, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, I can't here in Malta, and I don't want to move. And I want to keep them here in the school district. I'm not a custodial parent. but I spend enough time here, with my children. I've been here for 14 years. I've known my neighbor, almost all of them, for 14 years. I help a lot of people in the community, and we do have a close-knit community as well. And I just want clarification as to what it's meant in the verbiage to encourage redevelopment, single-family homes, or I think it said demolition. So that was, and I'm hoping that that's leverage, the language you're trying to show Solomon, that maybe you're gonna lose your change of use if you don't get on your stick. And, and admitting that maybe you lose that leverage here today. So I don't know if you could actually take that position and reassure us that that's what you want, but I know you've been trying. And that's all I wanted was a little clarification.
Thank you, Scott.
It's a two-way street also. We need your help and we'll give you your help. For example, the disposal issues over there turned into being an eyesore. I went over there and I took many photographs. When Solomon was contacted, it was cleaned up. But also, the sofas, the other things have to be put in the bins. They can't be just dropped off there. It's a two-way street.
You talking about the roll-up containers? Because I don't have access to. They moved the one that used to be by the tennis courts, and it's now
Right,
there
yeah.
by their.
They're gone now, or are they?
Well, I have not seen them in quite a while. It's been at least 6, 7, 8 months, maybe a year. I don't know.
Okay,
But there is
one
a
at a time,
roll-off
folks,
container.
please.
They have a roll-off container that's over by their maintenance area, their shop, and they lock that fence or gateway, so we don't have access directly from Malta Gardens side.
Okay.
Through the apartments we could, but now we're in an area under camera, and and I think some folks have been fined for using that. So that's their answer. Everything that they get
Thank you
is a
for
fine.
clarifying that.
Anything that we could do, I'm all for it.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
William Boardman?
I'm a Malta Gardens resident as well. I bought the place for my daughter. It's a 2001 double wide mobile home, real nice unit on a corner lot. We're very fortunate. We got a good house, and I've put over $20,000 into it, updating it to standards, new roof, siding, skirting, new driveway, paved driveway, built a porch out front, and all new appliances. So, I mean, it's completely up to date. So when this evaluation or any evaluation is done, you have to take into account, standards, what's acceptable, what's health-wise, what's acceptable. And I would like the town to actually go in and make an evaluation with Solomon and check out the different residents and get financial aid to those people who really can't afford to update their homes.
We have done that. Just this past
I mean,
year with
we
rescue
should be
funding.
able to get a-
Were you aware of that?
We should get a state.
We had
state-
12 homes. It was posted online for folks that felt that they were eligible with the income demographic. And if you qualified, we had worked out a deal with Rebuild Saratoga. They went in, they rehabbed, I think, a dozen homes. Each were like between $10,000 and $12,000 each. That was funding that we made possible through the rescue fund for folks that could not afford to rebuild. And we're talking major components of their homes, whether it be a roof, whether they needed a furnace, what have you. And we were able to do that. So again, this board is extremely sympathetic to the folks that are in need in Malta Gardens or anywhere within this town. As it stands right now before us, we have quite a need in Malta Gardens in certain parts of the park. So naturally, we're addressing that. We're trying to address it through our actions. Code enforcement, Jamie O'Neill, our building and planning director, she can attest to the number of times that we've had code enforcement at Malta Gardens to put pressure on the Solomon Group to fix deficiencies that they've had.
Right.
And that will continue. We could keep someone there every single day where our code enforcement person, that's all they did was Malta Gardens. Unfortunately, we've got 17,000 other residents in town that we also are responsible for. So we can only do so much, but that doesn't mean that we're not doing anything at all.
I mean, if you look at the end goal would be, okay, how do we turn Malta Gardens into the villages? You know, how do you
You guys got
actually,
golf carts already?
how do you actually,
Well, you got lakefront
people to
property down there.
upgrade their homes, and that takes money. And we're gonna need money from the state. You know, we're gonna need some grant money to upgrade the infrastructure.
Exactly. And what you're saying, that's planning. That's what a master plan is. It's planning for your municipality. Whether it's a town or a city, when you conduct your master plan review, you look at not just now, but at least 10 years down the road. So you have to prepare yourself. It's used as a tool, it's used as a guide. There are specifics in here. In this case, Malta Gardens is addressed specifically for a reason. If we don't address things specifically, then we don't have as much traction, if you will, to address those same issues maybe 3-5 years down the road when a developer wants to move into an area and take it over and start doing things. We need our master plan to say, hey,
Right.
it's right here. It's not consistent with our master plan, but this is. So that's why it's spelled out.
Well, that's good. That's what I was alluding to, is get the town involved with Solomon to come up with a master plan before a developer comes in there and just wipes everybody.
Right, and I think that what I read from 2005 in a master plan back then, our town master plan, recognized the need then. So this is not a new thing. This has been in place, but we're still trying to
Just
adhere
need
and
some
get
new
close to that
ideas,
guide.
New ideas to get the money. It's all about money.
Yes, John, you had something.
Yeah, just to your point is, in the course of our discussion about how to use the American Rescue Plan funds, one of the things I advocate, and trust me, notwithstanding what I'm going to say, don't think that I think that I'm virtuous, because there's many people in this room that will tell you otherwise. But one of the things that I advocated for, because of the chronic, and I've been on the town board here for 14 years, was to take $900,000 and extend a municipal or public water system into the park.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
And you know what the answer from Solomon was? Not interested.
They didn't want to go near it. They wouldn't even
So
talk
the-
about
the-
it.
The problem, there's a lot of, no,
No.
and you know, 4 or 5 years
Management-
ago,
Management now might have a different story.
it's the ownership that's the
It's the
problem.
ownership, it's not management.
4 or 5 years ago, I sat here on early summer mornings and I said, we need another code enforcement officer dedicated to dealing with the issues in there, and the town board voted for it. But we've made such little progress in there, and there are some people in there that live in just the most desperate, terrible circumstances. I know, because every time I've campaigned in the 4 years, I always go in there. I spend as much time in that neighborhood as I spend in any
I
neighborhood.
know there's a lot of folks
And
that,
I've stepped up on trying to get to people's doors and have the porches fall out through, I'm falling through the porches to get to, some people I couldn't even get to them. I mean, you have to admit, there are people in there, it's just the
and there's
most
proud
terrible
people in there
conditions.
that won't want to accept any help, so you got to deal with everything.
Yes,
I understand.
yes.
Mark, I know we're in the public hearing right now, but if I just maybe could make a suggestion. It seems like the paragraph A on the top of page 38 is really the objectionable piece here. And I would support, when we come out of the public hearing, and if we have the opportunity to do so, I would support removing that paragraph A that talks about Malta Gardens reaching the end of its useful life. I think that's the objectionable part here. I think we've heard from folks here that they appreciate that we're trying to do something. We're trying to do something. I think this language just ended up a little inarticulate and I think gave the wrong impression. So that's just my opinion, what I would like to see us do. But
Mark,
Go ahead, John.
I am going to be off the town board at the end of this term. I won't run again. All right. So, it's not okay for me to not make some effort to try and do things to improve the quality of life in there. And I don't know what the answer is, but our plan should speak specifically to steps that we envision taking in terms of what we can regulate to make things better in that park. Our plan should say that.
Yeah,
I don't know what,
right.
but understand that we don't have a full set of legal weapons at the town government level. We have very limited things we can do. All right. So but it's not acceptable. And, the town board, there's 5 of us that we may not reach a consensus on this, but it's not acceptable to me to not speak to taking some measures in there to make things better.
Yeah.
We've tried to do some.
And I think, John, you're right. I think it's important for us to state goals here about how we want to see this community be improved for the better. I think, at least from where I'm sitting, I think that talking about it reaching the end of its useful life is really the problematic component, and where I think we could probably do a heck of a lot better.
I'm sorry, I'm just having a little difficulty reading. 24 Avenue B?
I'm a small business owner and I've lived in Malta Gardens since 1989. It's my home. Yep, I was one of those slobs, involved in racing and lived like a pig. I decided to get out of racing and put some money in my house. Rebuild Together helped me 6 years ago where I lost everything with the fire and had to rebuild. I put $30,000 of my own money in my home. I'm a landscaper, I travel, we mow lawns. Yep, I'd have to agree, Malta Gardens is an eyesore. Ever since Don Green left, the place has gone to hell. Because you know what, people don't care. Well, I do care. My neighbors next door care. My neighbors on the other side care. Brand new home 11 years ago. I have a home the town didn't even know was my home. They called me and said, "What happened to your home?" That's not the home that was there. You're right. It was rebuilt $30,000 more. That Malta Gardens is home to me. It's home to my friends. It's our community. If you guys can put it in writing, then nothing would happen to this place. And try to get somebody like Don Green back in there, because Don Green didn't put up with this shit. He didn't. The houses had to be painted, skirting had to match. Solomon come in, and we have riffraff. It's embarrassing for me. I've been to the town with Wayne Hoffman, my next door neighbors, cats. I sit on my porch, they've been gone for 2 years. Stink. I spray it down with Lysol. It's disgusting, and I understand how the town feels. I know how you guys can come in and say, "What an eyesore, we shouldn't put up with this nonsense." Well, we have to put up with this nonsense. It's our home. If you keep your place up, my neighbors, the Joneses, the Walkos, they're family to me. And if you guys can put in writing that we're here to stay, I'm more happy. And come down to 24 Avenue B, my home's better than some of these places that are in these developments.
Well, what's not in writing is that we're looking to evict or confiscate. It's not in the language. All right, so what the town supervisor said, is something went out that put the fear into everyone. Well, that was not our intention, and I think you can hear from the board that, incrementally, we're working up the hill to fix the problem, not aspirate it or make it worse or confiscate or issue eviction notices. So maybe the language can be changed a little bit, on paragraph A. And I could see why a dagger, people got their blood, sweat, and tears into their home, and someone calls to something that you don't like, same with, with my house, and, I'll take offense to it, but, again, we are not confiscating or evicting anybody.
Please, sir, if you stand. And your name? You on here, Patrick?
It's gonna be short.
You're on here now, Patrick. How's that? Is
Okay, that's fine.
that okay with you?
That's fine. You alluded that the town doesn't really have much legal authority. So who does? Who do we have to go to? Who do we have to bug to help you help us?
All right,
I mean,
whoa, one at a time, folks,
as far as
please.
the verbiage goes, Tim, you pretty much got the gist. It's you know, to read that, it's just, you know, like, it scares you. Everyone's got a right to be scared by that paragraph. We understand you're trying to help us. And we're not trying to put the blame on you or anything like that. And more people are going to come up, basically say the same thing. So for us, for you to change the verbiage, that's really the main goal right now. So that'll make us feel better. We know you're trying to help us. That makes us feel better. But like the gentleman on the end said, your hands are tied as well as far as legal
Well,
authority.
They're not completely tied,
I-
but some of the things that
Right,
have been
but you
talked
are
about,
limited, correct?
there are constraints
Yes.
on what we can do.
Right. So who do we have to bug that's above you to help you so you're not so limited in helping us? That's the question.
You reach out to your assemblywoman, your senator, reach out to those folks.
I got an answer for you on this. I know this one, the answer's already. The Attorney General is investigating my landlord. I don't live at Malta Garden. The Attorney General is very interested in preserving mobile home parks as they are unsubsidized affordable housing. I mentioned to one person in the office a number of the problems at Malta Gardens that I am familiar with. What they need is several tenants to file complaints. And it can't just be one person. They are not one person's attorney. I don't know if the town is restricted from filing complaints to them, but if several tenants make complaints and stay on them, because it takes a little while for a response, but stay on them and document things, that's who can come in and push back against Solomon in a way that these folks might not be able to fully have the authority to do.
I can tell you that when I was deputy supervisor, Darren O'Connor was supervisor, we actually met with Kerry Warner. Greg Berg, one of our code enforcement officers, was in attendance as well. Lydia was with Kerry Warner, and we spoke about Malta Gardens. And we explained to Assemblywoman Warner what our concerns and fears are, and really frustrations. And at the end of that meeting, I was left to believe that the AG was going to be contacted through her office, as she said so. I don't know if it just didn't go anywhere. I don't know.
How long ago was that? Because she was also.
That was at least 3 years ago.
Okay, she was involved with my parking, she's been very helpful, but they need several complaints from tenants and also contact Tara Gaston, while she's still county supervisor, while there's still time, she may also be able to push. But bombard them and go to the.
We had a stack of complaints that we handed to the Assemblywoman that day. I remember it very vividly. I guess what it does is no fault of Carrie's, but it shows just how difficult this process is.
It took me a year to get someone from the AG's office to justify showing up, a year of low-key stalking them, because I was the only one complaining, and then finally 2 or 3 other people complained, and the process of investigation is still ongoing, and they first showed up last summer. So it is slow, but keep on them and bombard them and document things.
Okay. We got our answer.
Thank-
Well, you know, us as residents will
Thank
have
you.
to get on that to help you guys get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate any help that we can get on our end. We really do.
If you want to
so
file
I'm
a
gonna-
complaint, Mark, there's a Attorney General website where you can file your complaints
The
online.
complaint form is not, I'm sorry, the complaint form is not terribly helpful when it comes to housing. I found out the hard way. It's multiple choice, and for mobile home parks, the AG's office is actually working with MH Action to revise their form, because there's no clear way to plug in what your complaint is,
Yeah.
and most of the stuff that we struggle with is not listed on there. So, Christina has a contact, you have her email, right? Or her phone number that I gave you, okay. Get the contact information. I mean, you can do it through the website if you find something that lines up, but you might see only like 3 choices, and your issue is not one of those 3 choices. So they're gonna update it, but right now it's not terribly helpful.
Thank you. And Christine, I'll be in touch with you, and maybe we can get that set up somehow for your neighbors, okay? Okay, so we got quite an exhaustive list here. I don't want to cut anyone short, and if someone really feels the need to get up and talk, I certainly want to enable you to do that. Is there anyone that feels that they really have something further that hasn't been said tonight? So I've got 4 hands in the back, so the gentleman right here with the hat on, please.
Hi, I'm Max Horning.
Hi, Max.
My significant other and I moved into Nabner Road probably 3 months ago, January. I love the community already. It's very low key, no one bothers me. I would love to get to know people from the community as we move in and we're done remodeling and doing our part. I have not heard a single good thing about Solomon. I work over in Greenwich. The gentleman who owns the building I work out of is very influential. He owns several trailer parks throughout the state of New York. He would love to own that entire park because he sees how it's just fallen downhill so far. After being here, I do feel a lot better. I'm a lot less scared because obviously this is our very first home. I'm 28, she's 27. But I agree with a lot of people. We kind of need to put the squeeze on Solomon to get, ourselves taken care of. It kind of is sad when I go to take a shower and I feel like I'm in a swimming pool because there's so much chlorine in the water, or that there's boil warnings and they never say, oh, you're good now, because we're never good. So I don't know if there is a way to put a little bit of a squeeze on them besides what everyone else has said, but I can agree with other people. There are abandoned lots. We have a lot that's empty across from us that I don't think gets mowed or taken care of. On the other side of that lot, we have someone there, but right after them is another abandoned one, I believe. I definitely think there's work to be done. And I'm looking forward to working with everyone here and everyone in the park to try to get that done, because it is a nice little community. And with a little bit of love, TLC, and a lot of money, we're going to be a little shining star, I think.
Yeah.
Or at least I'd like to think so. I mean, other than that, that's about what I've got to say. It's nice to see all you guys, and I'm glad to be a part of the community now.
Thank
So,
you very much,
thank you.
Max.
As far as the water down there, Mark and I and somebody else sat down with Solomon's lawyer to offer him funds to hook up to a public water system. He was very clear it was a no. Solomon had no interest in this.
I think it's really sad that
And other people in this town have more of a water problem, and they're getting less than you are.
Yeah, I haven't done a ton of research just because I've been so busy between work and the new house. From what I can tell, is Solomon even a company out of New York State? Do they have?
I think they're
So
out
they
of
have nothing invested into us. They're from New Jersey. They don't care about us.
Nope.
Basically, they're making a profit, and they have zero intentions of reinvesting. And eventually, it will get further and further and further, to the point where people won't want to move in. And I'm like I said, we're younger.
I
We're the
will
babies
have
of the
that
park, I think.
conversation with the head honcho this week, I promise you.
You're the man. I appreciate you guys.
Right on my cell phone.
All right.
Understand about the water is.
Very well aware of
Water
it.
is owned by Malta Point. The sewage is owned by Malta Garden. That came from the horses' mouth. Okay? So that's why they don't want to sell it or do water hookup. Because one entity owns one thing and the other entity owns the other. We are actually 2 separate entities.
Thank you very much.
They're both owned
Next
by
gentleman right there with his hand
Solomon,
up.
aren't they?
But they're 2 separate entities,
Okay.
and that's how they get away with it.
Yeah, my name is Ed Shoemaker. I live, excuse me, 15 Avenue Road. I think you guys have been around my house a few times. My wife and I have invested a lot of money into our house. I just turned around and invested $30,000 between January and now. And before that, I invested money. I've gone to Solomon, tried to talk to these people about the house next door to me that's fallen down, the empty lot alongside of me that's growing ticks and fleas, and people throwing garbage in it. They don't, the first thing they say to me, well, that's up to our maintenance people to come to us about it. I can remember when Lori was there, Lori used to walk around the park.
Folks,
People depend on their maintenance people, they don't even have any maintenance people. The lawns are supposed to be mowed. Mice are running all around. You go down Lakeside, there's a house down there that's got a red tag onto it. Also, there's an empty lot there, and a guy throws shit all over his lawn. You people want people in the Malta Gardens? You're not gonna get them when you got people like that. And you talk to them over there, they don't really give a damn, because why? They have a Jersey mentality, all we want is the money. Okay, and it's about time somebody steps up. I can remember Malta in 1973, when it was nothing and there was dumpsters up here. If you people can remember that. And now look at it. You've actually, sometime you might have improved it, but you've destroyed it too. With all the housing, and these houses aren't even rented yet. There's a lot of vacant places up there, and they want what, 16, 17,000 a month? Come on. It's about time people start getting together and do something about this. Not just one person, not just 3, not 5, the whole community. I've been in here over the water. Okay, what, 2, 3 years ago. And I said to the guy from Solomon then, all you people wanted is the money. Okay, so what happened? Oh, we get the water now. But for 2 weeks, we went without water. Next door to me, there's an empty lot. They put dumpsters in there one time. I come to the board. I even got the big shot out of Syracuse to come down and see the garbage that was being dumped around my house. They moved it. They moved it over to the other side. And I can understand why Solomons don't want to put the dumpsters in there, because a lot of people just throw the shit all over the ground. And if the people in the park would just be a little more considerate and throw the stuff where it belongs, instead of throwing it on the ground and let rats and everything else start running around there, maybe something could be done in this park. The house next door to me is falling apart. I mean, literally falling apart. You go to them about, well, we don't know who owned the house. Well, that house has been vacant for about 6 or 7 years. The people abandoned it. So, oh, well, we got to take them to court. Take who to court? If you don't know who's paying for it, tear it down. Get it the heck out of there.
They can't.
Start improving your neighborhood.
The law.
They say, oh, no, we got to go to court. And
hold
we
on,
gotta
please,
get the
please.
court involved.
One at a time, folks, please. Let's keep this in order.
And then she says, oh, well, it takes time to get people out.
Understand it. I understand all of what you're saying, sir. We all do. But we're extremely limited with what we can do.
I realize that. I mean, I even offered to buy my land. They said no.
I know. So I think, because I really would like to move forward with this, I don't want anyone to leave here tonight saying, well, I didn't get a chance to talk. We all understand pretty much, I think, the basic message that you've all brought here tonight. If there's anyone that thinks that that message hasn't been put across to us and you want to speak, just raise your hand, I'll let you speak. But we really have to try to just keep moving this ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Heather Murphy. Murphy. I live at Long Meadow by those beautiful ladies that spoke earlier. I have not lived in Malta Gardens as long as everybody else. I've been there for a year and a half. My home cost $50,000. We as mobile home owners that rent land from a person have the least amount of protections in all of New York State compared to everybody. Apartment renters have more protections than we do. If a development were to come in and decide to buy it, we get 15 grand. That doesn't pay off my mortgage. That doesn't provide me a way to get into a new home. Sir, Timothy Dunn, you had spoke about how the verbiage came off. And that someone else writes it, right? Puts it together based on communications you all have had. Do you read that before you publish it, sir?
Absolutely.
You guys all read
Yeah,
it?
Yep.
And not one of you went, that sounds a little offensive, maybe.
No, I mean, I didn't like it to begin with, but there's, we have to go by consensus here. And I think we're hearing loud and clear from folks that the language here is problematic. And
I
know
hope going forward you
I've
take
asked
that
we-
into consideration. How might this come across to others? Sir, I don't know what you're referencing about who maybe planted a seed. I'm a grown-ass woman. I can read. I have eyeballs, got a good education here in New York. I read that, okay? The reason it's coming up now, the pandemic. We broke, okay? I have a mortgage to pay off. That $15,000 that I might get, it's not gonna do anything, like I said, okay? We don't have recourse. We don't have protections, and we're screwed if someone does come in. I'm a little insulted that you think someone else planted a seed. I read what you guys wrote and what you published. And it comes across, you talk about how beautiful Malta is in general, and then you kind of say, well, except for this eyesore. I'm a little offended. I'm not gonna lie. I understand why you say that, but the way it came across is terrible. Solomon is a lawyer group. They're from Jersey. They've been banned from multiple states. What did you tell me the percentage of trailer parks was in New York State? Most of them reside in Saratoga County. Why are we so scared? We watched during the pandemic as what? Was it 8 to 12 trailers that were owned in that one small park? Here's your up to $15,000. Most of them didn't even get that to go somewhere and do something with their family. This isn't an obscene thing that it can never happen. We just watched it happen. Every one of us panicked. That's right, Saratoga Lake. I lived in Montgomery County in a trailer park that was, you want to talk about a real shithole, they were all meth heads that I lived with, and that's why I left. All right? I don't know, there might be a couple, but we got 220 people, three meth heads, not as big of a deal as what it was out there. But I was afraid of what was going to happen to me out there. To be honest with you, I don't like people from Jersey either, but I'm not going to blame all of New Jersey. I'm going to blame the lawyer side of this. They know how to scheme, and they know how to get away with shit. They take advantage of the fact that mobile home renters don't have any protections and that they're screwed. I understand you guys are restricted in what you can do, and it's going to have to go beyond the Assemblywoman and our Assemblywoman up to Letitia James. But there are several other communities that will also be affected, and everyone has to be proactive if you're truly supportive of us and getting us protection so that we're not screwed if Solomon decides to really lawyer up and act how they can act, They don't follow the rules. They charge me for pet rent, which was illegal, for over a year. They owe me $1,000 right now. And they didn't think I was gonna catch it. Like I said, I'm a grown woman with eyeballs and I can read. So most of us are adults, we can read. Just think about the next planning, the next verbiage, how it might come across to the rest of us. And
Thank you,
help us
Heather.
figure out how to out-lawyer the lawyers.
We hear
Thank
you
you.
loud and clear.
Appreciate it.
We heard you very clearly, and thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, so is everyone comfortable with what's been said tonight? We all understand that there's, what do we have?
On the comp plan.
All right, yeah, let's try to keep this related to the comp plan. We understand the Solomon Group. We understand that's kind of why we're here tonight. That's kind of why this is in the comp plan to begin with. We also understand Solomon Group has really not been operating that park probably as best as they could. So we all understand the faults and the trials and tribulations that we have. That said, yes, ma'am.
So I just want to add two things, it'll be really quick. I live at Saratoga Lakeview Mobile Home.
Could you address from the podium, please? Just state your name.
Hi, I'm Dio Kaufman. I live at Saratoga Lakeview Mobile Home Park, the one that was just referenced. And I took all this time this afternoon to write a somewhat snarky response that I'm going to disregard
We
because
love
y'all have sorted
snarky
it out.
responses.
Well, this is the best meeting ever. You've solved the problem before I get to yell at anyone.
Doesn't that just upset you when that happens?
Well, I'm not done yet, but
You can go ahead and read it if you want when you get home.
I want to say I appreciate the fact that whatever the catalyst was, I see how eager you all seem to be responsive, to identify the problematic language, to say, yeah, we see it, we'll get rid of that. And I'm hoping y'all hold them to it. If nothing else, look at this as a catalyst. It got people here, it got a dialogue opened up, and even when these folks change the language like they've said they're going to, don't stop organizing now. Because you had that fear come up for a weekend. My neighbors and I have been going through it for 2 years and counting, 3 years, I'm losing track of time. So this is kind of a wake-up call that, like, yeah, something could happen, even if it's not generated from the town. The bottom line is, this is happening nationwide. Solomon is a scummy corporation. They pretty much all are. But the two things I wanted to say, one, based on this conversation, it sounds like there's a desire on both sides to come to solutions, but not always maybe the best communication or overlap. And yes, people can come to town meetings, but I wonder if the town could create a mobile home park task force to include not only Malta Gardens, but the other parks in the area, maybe have some representatives on a working group and have some monthly meetings to work together and address some issues. And another thing regarding the Attorney General that I forgot to say earlier, one way to advance an investigation, and this is not about getting anyone in trouble, when you file your complaints, tell them that you went to this government agency, you went to that government agency, code did this, the police did that. They need to see where the local agencies have been maxed out and the problem still exists. That helps to light the fire under them, okay? And it's not about putting anybody under the bus, it's about showing them, we went to Assemblywoman, we went to the town meeting, we went to code enforcement. I think the statement that you feel like there needs to be a full-time code enforcement person there, if some of you are able to file a complaint, I think that statement says a lot. So they really listen for, okay, but did you do this step first? Do that first, because that's their purview. And then if it still doesn't work, that's what gets them involved. So I just wanted to make those two suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
All of you wrote something to Decision James, honestly, and said, look, we're realizing a large percentage of our people in Malta are affected by this. We're seeing there's no legislation to protect these people from losing their homes. We, as the board members and patrons of New York State, we're concerned about all of the people in Saratoga County that this is gonna affect. Because like I said, it's like 75% of all mobile homes residing in Saratoga County, which is crazy. There's no reason, and I would love if you guys could message people at the county level and acknowledge that thing and get a real conversation. You guys have more connections than we do, but you're looking at us going, come on, you guys know each other, y'all talk. I do events for all of these people around here. Anybody that's in the legislative stuff.
We do try. It's more difficult than you might think that it is, but we do try. Yes.
Listen, I haven't really got a chance to vote. I've only been here a year.
Okay, folks.
All right.
Folks, please, we really need to get on. We still have our regular meeting we would like to get through tonight, but I want to make sure everybody in this room has a chance to be heard, that feels that they have something that they have to offer that someone else already didn't. I see one hand in the back, two hands in the back. Dave Rosenberg, please. Nothing snarky, Dave.
And happy birthday, Mr. Rosenberg. Is it, today's the big day, right? Or yesterday?
Today is the day, double sixes.
All right.
I did not get it mentioned in the newsletter, though. The
Well, are you a
senior
member of the
citizen-
Malta Seniors?
I need to be a
Gotta
parent.
join. Kathy,
I have my
Kathy, you got
card.
an application for him?
Okay, Dave.
May I be a nice, refreshing change of subject? Two things I'd like to reflect on what's happened tonight. First off,
Folks, please keep the chatter down, please.
as a business owner in the community, I'd like to thank the residents of Malta Garden for their contribution to what this community is. It's truly appreciated. Second, you referred often to reading the minutes that talk about all the planning that's gone into this meeting tonight. There was a time during the pandemic where all those meetings were available on YouTube, and I think it would be a great service to our community if that
was brought back to life. I understand there's a lot of fancy equipment in this building that can make that happen, and that would be a,
It's also on our website. It's been on there from the start,
so
Dave.
recordings of the meetings are?
You're on
No.
TV right now.
You're on right now.
Love it. Shame on me. As you know, I attended many of the workshops for the comprehensive master
Yes, you did.
plan, and I took some time after that. You may recall in the final meeting, you asked if anyone had any comments, and rather than take up the time in the meeting, I asked if I could write down my thoughts and send them off, which I did, and never got any response. So I'm not sure if those thoughts were ever heard, or I know they weren't acted on in any way. But maybe that's what tonight is about. So if you don't mind, I just want to take a few moments and I will speed read
Sure.
here what I wrote. First, it was said multiple times that things are the way they are because people are not held accountable. This came up during conversations about Saratoga Lake and that HOAs are not managing their developments. And this also included underdeveloped properties, especially along the business corridor. Having what should be done, this would allow for standards to be maintained. Currently, these standards are not consistent. Code enforcement seems to be the best avenue for this, however, the town board is divided on that effectiveness. Perhaps that town board should agree on allowable conditions throughout town, then hold property owners accountable. Forgive me, this was all written about a year ago, which is when these meetings concluded, so some of it is a little already been taken care of is what I want to say. I went on to speak about PDDs within the town, which are way too big. There's far too many. It seems that just about every neighborhood is affected by a PDD, which is not a good thing. It is identifying that there is a problem. This is by far not the right way to do things. In the zoning process, each area fit with PDDs are in need of revamping, especially the gift to the town and consideration of workforce and affordable housing, which takes me to my next observation. This process that we're doing should be done more timely. I believe this began in 2018. Here it is 2023. Let's take 2 years or maybe even 3 years off of the pandemic. That's still 2 years, which seems to be an awful long time. And perhaps it should be done more often than what is now 18 years since it's last been done. Thank you, Tim. Based on the surveys in the report, which were done in 2018, when it comes to develop, much of the information is outdated. First, it states there are too many apartments. If these complexes that we have didn't have wait lists, I would agree, but they do, and there is more need for housing, especially affordable housing. There is also a concern of vacated commercial property that hasn't been reestablished. With the exception of Ellsworth Common, this is no longer the case. In fact, even with the pandemic, our town seems to have a very low closure rate, and several empty spots were filled during this time. I believe in the plan it also refers to Exit 11 and that business area. You'd be hard-pressed to find an open space on Exit 11 at this point, and it almost has to be de-emphasized in the master plan. My final observation is holding the population target established in 2005 to 21,000 is not in the best interest of our community. Our town relies on many revenues, primarily sales tax. For our residents to keep the sales tax dollars in town, they need to have continued growth in a variety of businesses, preferably within the commercial corridor. For that to occur, the residential population needs to continue to grow. Capping our population through a moratorium or any development in town with the moratorium would take us back to being a town that is difficult to develop and jeopardize the future development, impacting any further base growth. These are the areas that I feel should be addressed, but I'll save it for another day. Redefining the C2 corridor zoning area, is first and foremost to me. Allowing for transitional neighborhoods, eliminating light industrial and increasing residential units, perhaps units per acre scale, are a few things. I also feel the vision of each neighborhood doesn't always speak to how it is zoned and if it applies to what the PDDs have allowed to have their neighborhoods to become. Just not clear if this is the vehicle to do that, but I feel the vision should be considered when the neighborhoods are looked at. The utilization of LFTC also is in need of revisiting. When the town envisioned 4 chip plants, they completed roadways and accommodate that possibility. Now it is well known that the 4 plants are not going to happen, and property should be used in another manner that's suitable to residential communities. That's definitely a subject that's changed quite a bit since I wrote this. So I apologize for bringing that up. There's one other area that I'd like to see addressed within the comprehensive plan as well too, and that is within its vision. There's a line within the vision that is talking about, I'll just read it. The Malta Business and Professional Association, neighborhood associations, and service organizations, Scouts, Garden Clubs, should be encouraged to participate in Adopt a Highway programs, offer beautification awards, and sponsor activities such as holiday decorating contests. Well, as we all know, there is no such thing as the Malta Business and Professional Association any longer, and there are groups in the business community throughout town, one of which, as you know, I'm somewhat of a founding member of, known as the Malta Business Works. This is an organization, for those who don't know, that is comprised of local businesses in the area and not run under the umbrella of an organization that truly represents the capital region. I'm referring to the Malta Business Community Alliance, who in fact they are scheduled to sponsor, excuse me, let me take that back. There's an event taking place this Wednesday, sponsored by the Southern County Saratoga Chamber of Commerce, which is the larger portion of the Malta Business Community Alliance. It's my thought that this town needs a group that is representing the business in the town of Malta, not the county, or for that matter, the entire capital district, which is what's taking place with that group. So however that language is changed, I really think the Malta Business and Professional Association should be modified. It is on page 11. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dave. Okay. Do you have something snarky?
No, no snarkiness.
Then you can't talk.
I'll ad-lib something, I guarantee, if you want. I'm John Bablin.
Go ahead, Mr.
Resident of
Bablin.
4137 Silver Beach, right down the road from Mark. I'm going to split my time with Mike Gage, also a resident of Lake Shore Drive. We are in neighborhood 8. I brought up this issue to the previous board about 2 years ago, and they said, bring this issue to the CMP, Comprehensive Master Plan Group, and they will address it there. This issue has to deal with the application of corner lot status to the many, and Mike will give the details on the number of small lots we have in our neighborhood, but the multitude of small lots that exist, especially in our neighborhood. Just to give you an example, our lots are typically 100 by 50, 50 by 50, something like that. When you apply the corner lot status in zoning, the front side setback is 40 feet, and then the side setback next to the street, whether it be an active street or a paper road, is also 40. So you're taking away a considerable chunk of the building envelope. This affects a lot of people down in our neighborhood. We brought this up in several workshops, and to my shock, nothing was inputted in the draft plan. So my question to the board is, what the heck happened? And I'm not going to be too snarky. I'm going to invite Mike up to fill in some of the details right now on the number of lots and how they affect people.
I guess maybe if you want to answer John's question, you can.
Well, that's an open question. I don't expect an answer from the board tonight, so.
No.
Hey everyone, Michael Gage, R4 and the lake. I'll give the rest of the folks just a backstory. So R4 covers the lake from Manning Cove in the north, Riley Cove, Lakeside Acres, Silver Beach, Stony Point, and Saratoga Lake down by Dedonas. It's a very narrow zone in the town with people who either live lakefront or who are off the lake with lake rights. The lots tend to be very small. And as John mentioned, corner lots most of the properties in this neighborhood or in this zone are on quite small parcels, and the corners tend to be unconstructed paper roads, roads that do not exist, and most of the roads are private roads with either a 5 or 10 mile an hour speed limit. So the problem is, as John mentioned, that the corner lot setback is 40 feet. And with a side lot setback of 15 feet, 39% of the houses in this zone have a negative building envelope, meaning that you take the 40 feet from this side and the 15 feet from this side, and there's negative space left in the middle. That's 39% of the houses in this zone have this issue. Only 2% of the houses in this zone can build without a variance. 2%. So that means the other 98% of us, anytime we want to do anything, whether it's an addition or a porch or a new set of stairs or whatever it is, we have to come and ask for your permission. And that comes with a $500 fee, maybe some attorney's fees, maybe some other stuff, just so we can come and get this stamp of approval from you all, which for the most part is approved. But it's still a hassle. It's inefficient. It's a waste of your time, or I should say the planning board's time. It's a waste of our time and our money. And in these workshops, we put forward a handful of suggestions as to how to remedy this, and it doesn't appear as though any of that has made it into this new comp plan. And so my question for you is two-part. One, can you please explain to me the logic and the rationale behind giving 116 residents in this zone negative building envelopes and retaining a 40-foot setback where 98% of those properties have an unconstructed paper road as that corner, a road that is probably never going to exist? So that's question one. Please explain to me the logic behind that. And number two, if we're not fixing it in this process, what do we have to do to fix this? How many signatures do you want on a petition to fix this? Because I'll get them. So question one, please, to you all.
One supplemental fact there is that those paper streets have been laid out and not opened as actively used streets for, I believe, 100 years.
That's right. That's right. Our neighborhood was set up in 1927. And the reason those roads were never constructed is because it's too wet. And they're unlikely to ever be constructed. But they can't be dissolved because people have rights on those roads, even if the road doesn't exist. So can you please explain to me the logic and the rationale behind having 40-foot setbacks on corner lots where everyone is on a private 5 or 10 mile an hour road, and most of the corner lots are unconstructed roads? What's the logic?
Hey, Mike, although I agree with you on the paper streets, you know, it's just not that logical, I don't think. As far as the negative footprint, as you can see tonight, there was a comment about the flooding down in that area. Now, the roofs on all those houses do impact the flooding substantially. There is a lot of variances, I get it, I understand it. But with every one of those variances, it contributes to the flooding issue that I've addressed many times on the zoning board. I don't know what the answer is.
I'll tell you what the answer is. Forgive me for interrupting. And the answer is, when I had a neighbor, this is probably 4 or 5 years ago now, was seeking a variance for a building permit, and they abut the swamp area. And I asked your planning board in a requirement for granting that variance, that planning board require them to put gutters on their roof and discharge those gutters into an existing swale. And your planning board said, no, we can't do that.
I can't answer.
So instead, that house, the wonderful people, that house did not get gutters, and that runoff all goes back into the swamp and contributes to the problem that you just outlined.
Mike, at this time, I mean, this is clearly a zoning issue. I'm not comfortable myself answering zoning questions. I'm not an expert, I'll be the first to admit that. And I don't think any of us up here are experts in it. I would ask if building planning, Jamie, if you have anything you would like to add at this time. I don't want to put you on the spot. You didn't have any time to prepare for this. I'll defer to you.
Well, actually, Mark, I mean, I'll speak to, and you won't like my answer, unfortunately, is on the zoning board, I voted against every one of these variances that came forward. Because Saratoga Lake, we've got issues with runoff, we've got significant issues with runoff. Putting more impervious surfaces in areas where there's already a problem with runoff isn't really smart planning, in my personal opinion. So, you know, I have no interest in making it easier to build more stuff in areas where you already have a lot of flooding issues and a lot of runoff issues. So I want to be honest with you. I don't want to lie to you and blow smoke here, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And my response, I guess, would be, I only know one person in our neighborhood who has ever been denied a variance, and that variance request came after they had done what they wanted to do without a permit.
Yeah,
And so that's sort of a separate sort of kind of deal. But the question remains, if you don't want to answer my first question, as in what's the logic behind a 40-foot setback on lots that average 64 feet in width, if you don't want to answer that question.
Well, I'll answer that.
please-
I'll answer that.
Okay,
My logic on that at least is I view that as trying to discourage the development of impervious surfaces in an area where you have challenges like that. That's my personal opinion. I mean, public policy, particularly land use, typically tries to take an approach to encourage or discourage certain activities. And we actually have in our comp plan references to encouraging combination of lots in some of these sensitive areas to try to alleviate this issue. This is something I have been complaining about since before I was on this town board, and saying that we've got a major problem on our waterfront where we have overbuilt footprints on almost every inch of our lakefront in this town.
But I think
And it's in my opinion,
2000,
it's,
you guys
in my
combined the
opinion,
lots.
in 2000, I didn't do anything. I didn't even live in the town of Malta. So it was 23 years ago. So I'm simply stating my personal opinion on this, and from a policy standpoint, is I would like to see even more restrictions on it. I'd like to see it be more difficult to build down on the waterfront, because I think it's been a negative impact on our
And I
lakes'
think
health.
the comp plan that we're proposing actually reflects that, because that's been the feeling of all of us up here at the dais, not just him, everybody. We get complaints, we understand. It's an issue that has to deal with flooding. People in that area live near a lake. It's a floodplain area. There's water down there, believe it or not. So building more and more homes, dumping water from A to B and then from B back to A, I don't think in my mind is a way to solve the issue or the problem. The problem that can be solved here is you have to restrict, as Tim said, you restrict what goes on down there. This is a means of restricting that. We don't want homes everywhere down in that area. That area won't support homes everywhere, because the more homes that are built without restrictions, the more flooding is going to occur, the more problems are going to occur. It's just going to be a vicious cycle there's no end to it. So although it doesn't please a lot of folks, some folks, that's the issue. That's what we're dealt with. We have to try to find out ways that will not promote an existing problem and make it worse. Whether or not that answers your question, that's the answer.
Okay, so this is a question that I've asked at multiple meetings, and now I guess you're pegging the corner lot setback of 40 feet to a drainage issue. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's one of. And with that, I'm going to stop this particular discussion, because I'm not going to take up the whole evening with a workshop on drainage and stormwater runoff.
That's fine.
I hope you can understand that. This is about our comp plan, what we have in place. And for the sake of the meeting, I really would like to get back to that. I'm not saying that your concerns aren't valid at all. I'm just stating this is not the time to discuss those things.
So were we misinformed that this comp plan was the correct venue to address this?
You did address it. We've listened to you.
So, Mark, if I can interrupt for a second. Two things. You know, the comp plan is sort of like the overriding principle, and the concepts are addressed. There actually, if the comp plan update passes, the next step would be to update zoning due to the changes in the comp plan. So the process isn't over with the adoption of the comp plan. So there will be other opportunities in, say, Neighborhood 8, if there's zoning updates to address those concerns. However, the concerns need to be consistent with the comp plan. So the comp plan is like the Constitution that oversees everything, and then the zoning and the rules get adopted in accordance with that. It doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be a change one way or another, but as long as it's consistent with the comp plan, and some of the things in this area are particularly concerned with the environment and the lake and stormwater and those type of concerns. So you will have another opportunity at some point, A, if the comp plan passes, and then B, when those steps are taken. So I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, that's a very helpful explanation. I really appreciate it. That's the best
Thank you, Steve.
explanation I've heard.
So can at least you maybe include a statement that summarizes what you just said in the comp plan, how issues regarding the corner lots were looked at, and then it was tabled into something that was more, they were more concerned with runoff and something like that. Can you include
Well,
some
as
sort of
Steve
language?
just kind of alluded to, I mean, we still have, after this
we want
part
that
of the
into
comp plan, if it is adopted, we still have to work through
There's nothing
zoning.
in the comp plan that even suggests.
John, you've got to get, what has to happen is when we actually take this up for adoption, tonight's just a public hearing.
Got it.
When the town board takes the comp plan draft up for adoption, someone would have to move to put that language in there. It's not going to happen tonight. It would have to happen then, and you'd have to get somebody to do it for you. And you'd have to have at least 3 votes to make that change. All right,
But
so-
I will say there is things that address this indirectly, like on page 15, in the waterfront areas, the town should encourage the combination of lots where practical. The town wishes to encourage consolidation of lots in neighborhood 8, Saratoga Lake, in an effort to help manage stormwater and potential environmental impacts from dense development and redevelopment in the lake neighborhood. So,
Right, that's
So-
always been in there, though, I think, in
correct,
every
so
comp
that's the
plan.
overarching principle.
Right.
That then the zoning gets updated in accordance with that principle. So they don't go into the details of what your lot or any individual lot within that area is going to be within the comp plan. The comp plan sets forth the principles and the guiding document
I get it.
that all development's going to occur with. So that's where I was going with, those type of specifics would be addressed in a zoning update, and if there's language that can accommodate that as well as your concerns, that would be the time to bring it up, or as John has mentioned, to request an amendment to the, any comp plan to change the language as it's kind of written.
Got it.
All right?
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, John. Yes, Kathy?
Kathy Eitzman, 60 Round Lake Road. I want to thank the board, the planning staff, and the planning committee that did the comp plan comprehensive study. They spent hours and upon hours putting this together, and it's a lot of language and it's a lot of town. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kathy, very much. So, with all of this said, I would move that we close the public hearing at this time. Unless there's something else anyone wants to say, last minute, they feel needs to be said.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Yes. Thank you, folks. So now on to our regular agenda. Thank you very much for attending, folks. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm gonna take a bathroom break, 2 seconds.
Okay. Sure, we'll wait till these folks leave. All right, thank you again, folks. This time, please rise for the salute to flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. First order of business tonight is to accept the minutes from the town clerk, 3/27/23.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We do have, the second presentation is lined out tonight. We do not have Crystal Labar here. We have one presentation tonight from the BACC, Colleen Russo. I'm still used to it being
Thank
called
you for your
BARC,
patience.
Colleen.
That is a different place. That's actually two.
It's not the
separate
same thing?
places. So BARC is Ballston Area Recreation
Right.
Commission, and we are Ballston Area Community Center. So we do two different things.
Okay?
So I thank you for taking the time to meet with me. I had actually sent over our annual report from last year. And really my hope was that you would take the time to look at it and kind of review it. A lot of times when people hear Ballston Area Community Center, they seem to think that we really service just the village, maybe the town of Ballston and things like that. They don't realize that we really encompass a larger area. And so actually anywhere between 25 and 30% of the families and the children that use our center and our services are from the town of Malta. And so we just really wanted to foster that partnership. There are times when, we go for grant funding and different things to benefit the center. And we get support from, the town of Milton and the town of Ballston and the village of Ballston spot. But a lot of times we don't necessarily kind of get that support from Malta. I think because you guys have your own community center, which is great. And they do really great things. I've actually attended programs myself and for my children through there. So I think just putting us on your radar and giving us that time to really show what we do. So for example, last year, I think we served over 1,600 residents, and really we capture that more as almost Saratoga County. We've actually been expanding. So I wanted to just kind of give that brief overview and ask if there was anything that maybe you wanted to know more about us or what we do. Currently, we have about 150 kids that go to our before and after school programs. And then we also are a partner with the school district. We provide the universal pre-K. So we actually provide a free universal pre-K program for anyone who is a resident of the Ballston Spa School District. So a lot of our programs go along with the actual school district in their territory, which does obviously include Malta as well. So right now, I would say on any given day, we would be serving anywhere from like 30 to 50 children from the town of Malta and their families. So we just really wanted to be on your radar, and I wanted to introduce myself. I was appointed the executive director in December of last year, and I've been working really hard just to kind of put myself out there and make us known to everyone in the community. We're really trying to increase our programming and our capacity. I don't know if you've heard or not, but childcare is limited, in the area. So we're really trying to expand and meet that need. And then also with the universal pre-K, we recently went full day, and we look forward to offering anywhere from 3 to 4 full day classes in the fall.
Do you do any outreach to Malta Gardens at all?
We do not.
Could I
We have
suggest you
families that
consider that?
participate, that live there, that participate in our programs.
Could I suggest that you reach out to the management there and on-site staff to promote the availability of your programming, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, a good point.
Any other questions or information? Great. Well,
Colleen, thank you so much. It's
I
very nice
appreciate
to
your
meet
time.
you. Appreciate what you're doing.
Yes, thank you. Have
Thank
a good
you.
evening.
So at this time, comments from town board or department heads. I'd just like to really quickly and briefly mention that attended the Easter egg hunt. Myself, Tim was there for the earlier portion of the day, and there were a lot of Easter eggs to be had. Lots of chocolate. I didn't have any. Tim, I think, had quite a bit. But it was a good time. So Kristen and Barbara Mazarak, especially, and her husband Joe, every year they do this, and it's a lot of work that they put into it, and all the volunteer staff and for the folks that set up for it. It was a good day for it, sadly, because it was inside. But nonetheless, it still was fun. So I just wanted to mention that we had that. Also, we have a new business in town. I attended that soft opening, the Fairy Bakes, the Fairy, Sugar Fairy
Sugar
Bake.
Fairy, there you go.
It's right over here with the blue balloons and aqua furniture. It's great coffee and good eats. Had a cannoli. It was fantastic. And I have a feeling it won't be the last one that I have over there. So you get a chance, check that out. And Cookies and Creams, now open for the season for ice cream. I might have had an ice cream cone later on too. So it was a fun-filled day. That's all I have.
Well, I didn't get any candy at the Easter egg hunt because I was saving myself for the cookie smackdown. I ran into Mayor Putman at the Round Lake Village Community Room, and the box of cookies that came out of this that my daughter and I got was really fantastic. So I believe benefits Warless and the great work that they do. So really cool event.
And you had
in
none of
town.
those cookies, right?
I don't think there's any left.
Okay. Kids.
Yeah,
Kids.
that's the problem.
Any other board members, department heads, anyone have anything to bring up? Nothing. Comments or questions from town residents? Oscar, you asked me right away if you could speak.
That's it.
Sure.
A couple of weeks, Mr. Dunn, you can look up, this isn't about you. A couple of weeks ago, I addressed this board about an episode with what Mr. Dunn did. I made a mistake. I referenced the Round Lake Fire Department. I wish to retract that, and I apologize to them. I have since come to learn they have nothing to do with the town of Malta. And I apologize to Frank Mazza, and Tom Mazza, who are wonderful people, and I should not have brought them up. So if you could please retract that from my statements 2 weeks ago, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you, Oscar. Any other comments or questions from, yes, sir?
My name's Rick Handley. I live at 6 Danbury Drive. And I just wanted to, when something is right, you should say it's right. So I wanted to thank you for the drive-through Narcan training that
Oh,
we recently
thank you. I
had.
forgot to mention that. Thank you. Yes.
And I attended it. It was quick. And the people from the health department did a superb job. And I'm particularly impressed because of some of the things I heard on the January 9th meeting here about Narcan. So it was a big flip in the other direction. So thank you. It was a great job.
Thank you very much. We like hearing that. And yes, that was a very successful event that the county helped us put on and fairly well attended. So thank you very much, sir. Anyone else from the town? Any residents? Kathy, I kind of figured she was going to poke her head up again.
Love being on TV.
Why don't you just put your chair over there during the meetings?
Oh, no, thank you. Okay, Kathy Eitzman, Malta Senior President. If you haven't gotten an application, see me. I've got one for you. We had 91 people at our meeting this morning, 91. a little overwhelming at times, but we had an awesome speaker. So I want y'all to take just a quick moment, put your hands on your shoulders, play along. Breathe in and out. Do that 3 times and life is good. Now, she did another crazy thing with your nose, which I won't make you do, but she was amazing. And, you know, stress comes into our life. And one of the things she did today that I learned a lot from is when you're reaching for something, you know how you go, and you get all tense? That's how you get those aches and pains. So when you reach for something, breathe out. And then that liquor bottle comes to you much easier. So anyway, just breathe out when you reach, not getting tense. We had our first sign up for our trip going to Racket Lake. We're going to take a dinner cruise on Racket Lake, and then we're going to do a little wine tasting, a little tour of Old Forge. We take 54 on the bus. We had 102 people sign up. So we're taking a second trip and staying within our budget. Thank you for that. So just wanted to say we're alive and doing well. Thanks again for all of your help.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm glad to hear the seniors are doing very well. Oh, I thought Dave was going up to the podium. I thought maybe you had something snarky. You Enjoy. Was there someone that had something to say in the back? Ma'am, did you raise your hand? No? I'm just saying Oh, okay. All righty, there being no more comments or questions from residents, move on to town board business. First item on the agenda is to authorize the Shinnetonka Creek Park Court Improvement Capital Project Budget.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Second item on the agenda is to authorize sewer district number 2 outside user.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Also opposed. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to approve a Multiville Water Assistance Grant application that we had.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. All in favor? I'm sorry. Yeah. No, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to allow Roger, Highway Superintendent, to go to Ithaca, June 5th through 7th.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to approve the assignment and assumption agreement.
So moved?
Second. I was thinking for a second.
Okay. Discussion?
Yeah, just, I want to clarify for this because this is, you know, we originally had a workshop planned for this and changed at the request of the applicant. This is the declaration of covenants for the LFTC campus, which was previously with the LFTC EDC and is instead going to be assigned to Global.
I'm sorry, we can read that resolution.
I think, yeah, go for it.
Jen, could you read that resolution for us, please? Do you have it there, or you want me to hand it to you?
Approve assignment and assumption agreement. Whereas the town of Malta is party to a certain declaration of covenants, conditions, and restrictions dated April 23rd, 2009, and recorded in the Saratoga County Clerk's Office on April 24th, 2009, as instrument number 2009013-695, the declaration regarding the Luther Forest Technology Campus, LFTC, and whereas the Luther Forest Technology Campus Economic Development Corporation is the current owner of the LFTC and the declarant under the declaration and is presently under contract to transfer the LFTC, and whereas the pursuant to the declaration, the town of Malta must approve any transfer of control. And whereas the LFTC DEC has provided the attached assignment and assumption agreement for the town board to approve, and whereas the town board has reviewed the assignment, now therefore be it resolved that the town board approves of the assignment, authorizes the town supervisor to execute the assignment, and further authorizes the town supervisor, after consultation with the town attorney, to execute any documents required to effectuate the recording of the assignment in the intent of this resolution.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Any discussion on that resolution?
Just, if I could, Mark,
Sure, Don.
just to, so I can understand the need to do this, of course, is that the owner of the rest of the campus will be Global Foundries, whatever entity they are using to acquire the land. So we want this to happen. So that transfer and this transfer need to be conditioned on each other, right? So that if their acquisition of land falls through, this shouldn't be operative.
Yeah, I
They
agree
need to
with
be
that.
connected, yeah.
And it's kind of like a closing transaction where and maybe it wasn't clear in the resolution, but authorize Mark to sign other documents to make that happen.
Right.
Is contingent upon that sale taking.
So we're providing the authority, but the authority will be exercised only if they close, is basically
Correct.
what you're saying. Okay.
That's what I intended. And
Okay, no, that's fine, I just want to make sure I understood.
And just to clarify, to my understanding, there's no changes to the covenants. It's just assigning it over to Global Foundries, and then at some point in the future, we may discuss some edits or changes to that form.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Budget transfers.
This is pretty straightforward. We're still in the beginning of the fiscal year, but this budget transfer is relevant to Saratoga County Agriculture, their program involving seniors aged 60 and older. The program that is relating to this budget transfer is for both the nutrition and transportation, in which the town pays quarterly for. The increase is due to the 2020 census, in which includes an increase to our residents aged 60 and over of almost nearly double the year prior. So thus, the contributions that were expected to pay has now increased significantly. Oh, I'm sorry, Office of the Aging. So that's, the contract that will be executed will involve an increase to this program.
Great.
Thank you very much,
So moved.
Julia.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. I did have one, it was a late ad, and I apologize for that, but I was waiting for the actual contract to come from the county. It is the Sheriff's Department Law Enforcement Agreement that we had budgeted for this year. We have that contract. It is within the budget. All of you should have refused or received, the paperwork for that. So I would like to move on that motion.
So moved.
Second?
Before you move and vote on that, I did prepare a resolution, but at the time I prepared it, I thought that the county would have adopted the resolution to provide the services, so I wanted to amend or request the board to consider amending the resolution. So maybe I could read that resolution and.
Because it's contingent on their approval. Is that what you're,
Well, yeah, it is, you're not going to execute it unless it's approved.
correct?
It just says, whereas the Saratoga County Sheriff's Department has resolved to provide the law enforcement services to the town of Malta. I'd rather it read where the Saratoga County Department wishes to provide law enforcement services to the town of Malta.
I move that we amend the resolution per Steve's recommendation.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Steve. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Well, no, that was on the amendment, then we got to vote on the full.
Yes. So then to vote on the actual resolution.
So it's already been moved and
Oh,
seconded.
it did get moved
Yeah,
in second.
yeah.
Okay.
So just on the discussion side, I want to commend Saratoga County and our town supervisor on this. We did include the funds in our budget that was executed back in November. But this is something I know even back when Darren was supervisor, he was working on, and to now have a dedicated sheriff's patrol for our town. Mark, with everything else you've got on your plate, great job in getting that done. We have we're a quiet, small town, and we've been very, very fortunate to remain that way. But the reality is the world is impinging upon us and sometimes exerting their will upon us. And to now have a dedicated sheriff's deputy to our town it certainly makes me feel much better. And I know my family will feel very safe. So thank you for getting this together, and thank you to the Saratoga County Sheriff's Department.
Yes, thank you, Tim. Well said. I appreciate it.
Until you get a ticket.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is passed. Any other comments or questions from anyone? Yes, sir. Please. Sure.
John Marabli, 28 Multiville Road. What exactly did you guys pass tonight as far as the Multiville project, water project goes? What was that? What did you pass? Oh, that was just the grant.
Oh, that was a grant for that we have. There's funding that's available. It was made possible through a PDD with Stewart's several years ago, and it provided funding for folks in the Multiville area that they could draw from that to improve their water in their home, their water quality.
Okay.
And so we've had some folks over the years. I think at one time, was it $300,000?
It was north of 200,000, maybe
Okay.
225, 250, somewhere in that range.
Yes.
I'm taking advantage of that as well. Thank you.
Yep,
No, I
yep.
just
So
wanted
that's
to
what that
clarify.
was. It's just someone else had applied recently, and that was just to mention that had been done.
Okay, secondly, where are we in the whole Multiville water project process?
The next step will be the vote, actually vote on
Is
it,
that-
and it's,
Has that been defined that date
It's in
yet?
June, isn't it?
June
yes,
13th.
yeah, it was June,
13.
Resolution that is June 13th
Yes.
will be the vote. So all the 37 properties that are in the district or formation of the district will get notification that they come to the town hall on June 13th. I don't know, timing, you'll be notified.
Okay, is that going to be like, will we have time after work to go vote, or when's that going to be?
Yes, it'll be all.
Okay, appreciate it. Lastly, going back to the whole thing tonight with the Malta Gardens.
Malta Gardens.
Mark, I want to hand it to you because I've been around politics for a long time, and that was a tough crowd, and you did it well.
Oh, thank you.
Secondly, striking the language, I don't think is a great idea. Striking the language and putting in there something in there that would protect these people is a good idea. They are obviously, they need a voice. It's got to be you guys. And if you don't protect them, then who is going to?
That's true.
No.
That's
Okay,
true.
so thank you, first.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Anyone else have anything they'd like to say or add tonight?
Move we adjourn.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Folks. Have a good evening.